Good afternoon and welcome to Local Business PPC Mastery. This is our training call number 3. Am I right, Tal0R?
Yes.
It's great to be on here with you. For those of you who were in Marina Del Rey last week, I sure enjoyed meeting you. I know Tal0R sure enjoyed meeting you. I got to sit in for just a few minutes on the evening session that the group did. And it was just marvelous to hear some of the success stories that were going on. Great questions being asked, great stories being told, and I know you got a really good thing going on here. So, Tal0R, the rest is yours. I will be here manning the question box. So folks who have questions, be sure and type them in. And great to be on.
Awesome. Yeah, I do want to take a moment just to talk about the event last week. And I kind of posted a little bit about it in the Google group, but I wanted to expand on it a little bit more. And some people were asking, well, what went on in that session and how did it go and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to tell everyone a little bit about that. And actually, there's possibly a way that you guys can continue in the Google group some of the same discussions that we had that night. So basically, the mastermind session we had about, and for those of you that don't know, this is in Marina Del Rey. The Renaissance Marketing Academy Perry Marshall event was last week, and I spoke there. And then we did a special mastermind session for any local business PPC members that were at the event. And so we started at about 8 o'clock. We probably didn't end till after 11. So it kind of went a long time, and most people didn't get out of their seat to even go to the bathroom, so it was pretty intense. And we basically went around the room. We said, "What's your name? Where are you from? How many clients have you landed, or have you landed any clients? And what's your biggest tip for the group?" And so that's basically what we went around. And I was just amazed that literally the large majority of the room, I would probably say like 90% of the people had landed clients, and I was really blown away just to hear. How many people were landing clients and how many people were having so much success. So you're probably wondering, if you weren't there, so how are they landing clients? Someone posted in the Google group, like, what was the main theme, that people were using to land clients? And the thing is that there really wasn't a main theme. There really wasn't like one main way that people were landing clients. And what I really wanted to mention and talk about here before I get into some of the stuff that I have prepared, and I'm going to share the only part of my presentation that I don't think I've shared with you guys yet, that I just pretty much created a couple days before the presentation. I'll share that with you in my slides in a couple minutes. But basically, the success that I found that most people were having was just that many of them were adapting it to something that they already knew. So, one guy, so trying to think of some examples. So one guy was in technology sales. And so that he had a background in technology sales. So he actually was using the system to approach technology companies and say, hey, I'm going to generate leads for you, and that's one service. And by the way, I also have another service. I can actually do the sales on the leads as well. So if you want just the leads, that's one package. If you want me to fulfill on the leads and handle the sales as well, that's going to be like a $6,000 a month package. And he was telling me that he was getting ready to potentially sign up his third client at the higher level pricing and stuff like that. So, there were other people. One guy said, I used to be in the real estate, or he is in the real estate niche and has a lot of contacts in the real estate niche. And he's like, Tal0R, I know you say that realtors are not a good niche because they have the long buying cycles and they're usually a lower end type of client. But he goes, the realtors that I've been working with and landing, as clients are, sell $2 million, farmlands or, big pieces of things like that where, again, that could be a $50,000 commission. Things of that nature. So I totally agree. If you're going to go after realtors or a niche like that, go after the luxury home or the high end or the big ticket type ones where they can make $50,000 on a commission. And then if they're spending several $1,000s a month on ads and they're closing deals every couple months, even just one a month or one every 2 or 3 months would more than pay for yourself and your ads and all that. Other people. I'm trying to think like if there was some sort of common theme. I really, that's the thing, is just people were really just adapting it. I mean, people were really just taking action is what I noticed. One thing is, just not afraid to talk to people. One guy said, everyone's afraid to pick up the phone and call, so I just pick up the phone and call and make a lot of calls. And, people, believe it or not, people actually still talk to you these days if you pick up the phone and call. Now, I know most people, including myself, don't like to cold prospect, but it was such a simple, piece of advice that he was doing and doing. He's like, yeah, just pick up the phone and call people. And, if you just make a bunch of calls and take a bunch of action, you'll land clients, So I'm trying to think if there was other people were really just adapting it to something that they had experience in, or just landing one client and building on it from there. So whether it be, and I think another theme was there were a couple people that were, really doing a lot of cold prospecting. The LinkedIn messaging came up, and using LinkedIn to land clients definitely came up. And I think people were talking about doing mass prospecting and things like that on LinkedIn. For sure, but also just really going after the low-hanging fruit, I think was a real common theme. Again, people for some reason don't want to contact their friends and family to let them know that you do this business. Your friends and family should be the first people that you contact. And not only that, even if they're not a business owner, if there's someone that you have a relationship with, they probably know business owners. So I think that's really a common theme, is to go after someone that's warmer rather than colder. But or if you're going to go after cold leads, then just take massive action. When you go after them. So. Yeah, were you going to say something, Ryan?
Tal0R, well, so about the big transaction thing, I know you've said this multiple times. What's your kind of cutoff point for size of transaction? Because like Thomas is saying, in a city like New York City, any real estate sale would have a high ticket price, right? But your guideline is how much the agent themselves is going to gain from doing the transaction, and the dollar amounts that you've specified are what exactly?
Yeah, so it's a little, so real estate niche is a little different. So I'll expand on the real estate niche, but I think real estate is not what I would consider like a normal local business. I would say, and I don't really have a specific dollar figure, but I would say typically with a regular local business, I'd like people to have a value per client of over $1,000 ideally, at a minimum, and the higher the better. But basically, with regards to realtors, now here's the thing. If there's a multi-millionaire real estate agent, then yeah, go ahead, do PPC, go ahead, land them as your client. The reason why, there's a couple reasons why I don't think. So let's talk about real estate agents, because it's actually a very popular niche, and a lot of people probably know a lot of real estate agents here as well. So where I think real estate agents can work is if they are like a luxury home specialist, or a short sale specialist, or a whatever it is, foreclosure specialist. Then it's ideal, because then you can actually have keywords that are more targeted. So like, for example, I had one for a short sale realtor specialized in short sale, and so obviously we had the keyword short sale. So we weren't just bidding on keywords like, sell your home, buy your home. Those are very generic keywords, and a lot of people are just looking, which, by the way, is the other reason why I'm not so crazy about real estate agents. So because most of the time, if you're doing PPC for them, most of the time people are just kind of browsing around. I know, like, when I was looking for a house, I kind of was just browsing around, looking what homes were for sale and looking on realtor.com and all these kind of websites, So it's a lot of it's a browsing experience. So if you're just sending someone to a landing page, it may not convert all that well if they're just looking to browse houses. So there's a couple of things. Number one, if the real estate agent has a really nice website that looks really nice, and you can browse the MLS from their website, you can browse home listings through their website and all that kind of stuff, then you may consider doing the PPC, running it straight to their main website. In this rare instance. I also mentioned in a Google group there was another rare instance. I have someone who paid me in advance. She actually hasn't even finished her website yet, but I told her, I said, listen, I'm filling up fast, so you might want to reserve your spot now. So she actually paid me in advance before she even finished her website, and she's like an interior designer, but like a really high-end interior designer. I think she's also like an architectural designer, so she actually helps multimillionaires create their custom home and design it like while it's even being built. So like and then she helps, spends hundreds of thousands of dollars decorating the inside and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, she said the average job to her is like, $200,000-$300,000. Right? I don't know how much of that is profit. Even if she made 50 or 100,000 profit out of all that, she's still doing pretty good. Now that's something again where a multimillionaire potential client, like she wants to have this really nice high-end website with examples of her work that she's done in the past, and I get that. So like that's another rare instance where we'll try sending the traffic to her website first, and if it doesn't work out, we may implement a landing page later. But those would be some of the two rare instances where I would say, okay, maybe they have to, maybe they have to see this interior designer's, previous work. Some guy worth $10 million who just hits a landing page, probably wants to see the work of the person before he, signs up for a $300,000 job or even wants to really speak with them. So I kind of get that. And with real estate, I think people might want to be browsing houses. Although again, I don't know how ideal that is to pay for clicks for someone who's just browsing around and wants to look at properties. Okay, so that's why I think if you're a short sale specialist, on the other hand, though, someone types in short sale and then you have an ad that says, this guy's the #1 short sale realtor in California. He's closed over 3,000 short sales or whatever it is, and here's, what we do, and here's examples of, whatever it is, testimonials. So that's a different story, right? And the same thing I would say with luxury home, or if it's a beachfront specialist and someone's typing in, waterfront homes in Newport Beach, right? Like, if you might have a multimillionaire realtor who would be interested in those types of, leads. So again, really it's more about, and again, the other thing I've mentioned about realtors in the past is the long buying cycle. So your average mom and pop realtor that isn't a multimillionaire, isn't making $50,000 commissions, it's probably, they're going to probably spend $5,000 one month, and then, it's going to take 6, 7, 8 months for some of those deals to close, and they're not going to have the $5,000-$10,000 a month to continue to float themselves for 7, 8 months until a deal closes, right? So I think that's about all I want to go off track as far as realtors in that, but I just kind of wanted to explain some of the reasoning on that one there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very helpful, and I think that answered Thomas's question primarily.
Great. So I want to move into, so some of you have seen that I posted this, and one more thing I just want to mention with regards to the mastermind session, and that is just, I really hope that you're inspired by it, by the fact that so many people, I know I was really inspired, and and by the way, people were doing all sorts, like there were people, one guy who was previously doing mostly SEO, selling mostly SEO services before getting involved in this program, and he had clients who were frustrated. It was taking too long to get results and all that kind of stuff. He just told me that he was charging $24,000. He was literally selling a $24,000 package. Now I think that was a 6-month contract or maybe even a 1-year contract. But he was now doing a blend of SEO and PPC and some other whatever stuff he was doing. But I mean, literally he was signing people up at $24,000. Now he had a very strong offer, like he was guaranteeing them a certain amount of leads between the SEO and the PPC and stuff like that. But it was just interesting to see how people were evolving this and merging it into any other assets they had, or any other relationships that they had, or their background and stuff like that. So I would encourage you to look at that and see if what in your background can you apply this to? Do you have experience in construction? And if so, can you approach construction companies with the experience in construction and create landing pages and campaigns that are specific to them, and be in that niche because you can relate to people more in that niche. Just think of questions like that. But in the end of the day, what we found is that it's really about confidence and belief in yourself. And we know this, and I said this at the group, this is the #1 thing that these local businesses need. They all want new high-quality leads, right? Hands down, you go to 90% of local business owners or more, you ask them, what do you want more than anything? They're going to say, I want new leads, I want new clients, right? So it's the #1 thing that they need. And what you have in front of you, you can get them the best return on investment that I've seen out of any other form of advertising or marketing that they could possibly do. So you really have to go in there with that confidence and belief that you are really dramatically going to be helping these people. This is a win-win. You are giving them, and in the end of the day, I say when clients ask me, basically I say, listen, I can't guarantee 100% of the time that this is going to work out for you. right? I would never sit here and guarantee, hey, 100% success rate. But what I can tell you is this, is that if you're serious about growing your business, you need to do some type of advertising or marketing. And this is the best ROI that we have seen consistently for any local business. So in the end of the day, we can do this campaign and we can try it out for a month or two and see how it goes for you. And if it works really well, you could be adding hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially millions of dollars a year to your business. And if it doesn't work out, your risk is a couple grand to try it out. So, I mean, that risk-reward pendulum there is just huge, huge upside potential, and your downside is, you know, I literally say that to people, and I say, and listen, I think you're going to be successful. I'm very confident that you're going to be successful. We have a very high success rate, but in the end of the day, absolute worst-case scenario, you lose a grand or two, and your upside potential is adding hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to your business, okay? And I think that you're going to have a very, very high success rate. And in fact, you know, a couple people ask me, well, you know, how long do people stay on, or what's the success rate, stuff like that. And my answer to that is, what I found is that typically it's that first month. So either people will, after that first month, if they get good results, they typically will stay with you for a very, very long time. That's why that first month is really critical, where you don't want to go too broad with your keywords. You want to stay really focused. You want to make sure they're getting a good ROI, right? Whereas, so again, if they're not getting good results, think about it. If you did advertising and you tried it out for a month or two and you didn't get a great return on investment, then you probably wouldn't continue. So for me, what I see is, like, you get past that first month, they're usually a very, very long-term client. I mean, literally years. In most cases. So, and then, you know, if not, then it's usually in that first month. But again, the whole point that I want to really have you be inspired by and go out there, because the people that are landing the most clients are the ones that have the confidence to go out there and speak with them and have the confidence and belief in what they're actually selling. So you really have to have this confidence and belief. And actually, I have a few slides here that I'm going to go over in a couple minutes about why they should choose you. So I have literally the biggest benefits and selling points when you're speaking with potential clients about why they should choose you. And I got some good practice on this recently with potential clients that I was speaking with, and that's kind of, this was all fresh in my mind. So again, remember this: you are giving them the best ROI out of any marketing or advertising they could be doing, these local businesses. You have a system to get them better results than 99% of any PPC manager out there could get them. And you know, you have the potential to dramatically grow their business. So you got to have that confidence. Go out there and just take action. Is really have belief in yourself and have that confidence, knowing that you're really out there to create a true win-win and dramatically help them. And their upside potential is huge, and their downside is very, very low. So, all right. With that being said, I just want to again remind everyone the Easy Webinar 6-month trial is available. I spoke to him. I got him to basically leave it open for a little while longer. Which is good. At first he was kind of like, well, can we do 3 months? And I'm like, I told everyone it's 6 months already, man. You know, he's like, all right, you know. So anyway, we just set up a redirect. EasyWebinarLaunch.com will take you there. It's 6 months free trial, then $47 a month. I just signed up on the 6-month trial myself, and I am actually looking into implementing it over the next couple of weeks myself. So I'm really excited about it. We spoke about earlier that with an automated webinar system, you literally just record the webinar one time, and you can have it play every day or even twice a day if you want on autopilot. Okay, so it's much more practical than doing it live. And plus, when you're driving just a few people a day, like most of you are not going to be driving like 1,000 leads a day or getting 100 registrants a day for the webinar, you know? So if you're only getting 3 or 4, I mean, if only 2 people are watching your webinar, if you're doing it live, you know, that kind of sucks, right? To be doing a live webinar for like 1 or 2 people. But if it's an automated webinar that's just playing every single day and there's only 1 or 2 people watching it every day, that's fine, right? Like it's just on autopilot. It doesn't take any of your time or anything. So I think it's much more practical to drive them to this automated webinar sequence. So this was one of the only new things that, you know, you guys I don't think have seen that I basically created for my presentation last week, and I just call this the client landing funnel. And this is really, you can adapt this any way that you like. This is really just an example for you. This is an example of basically like what I would do, how I would map out this funnel. Like, this is, I think, great for you to see. So day 0 is right away when they register. So basically, the premise here is that you're driving these people to a webinar registration page. And one thing about it is that the more specific you can make it, the better. So if you are targeting chiropractors, then have your ad say, you know, attention chiropractors, learn how to generate, you know, high quality leads for your business, right? And then you take them to a webinar registration page that says, learn the number one way for chiropractors to generate high quality leads, right? So you'll get a higher click-through rate on your ads targeting chiropractors if the ad mentions chiropractors. You'll get a higher registration rate on your webinar registration page, and you'll get a higher conversion on your webinar. So I know some people are like just trying to make a generic one, like attention local business owners, or learn the number one way, or learn how to implement Google AdWords for your business, and it's just a generic presentation for everyone. Now that's okay, you can do that, but my recommendation would be to pick a niche, and then you can target that niche. I mean, remember, you can target chiropractors or dentists or lawyers on Facebook with Facebook ads, on LinkedIn with LinkedIn ads, or with LinkedIn messaging like we spoke about previously. And again, you can, or via cold prospecting and emailing, right? So basically, here's how it works. Day 0, they register for the webinar. They get an email right away saying, thanks for registering. Make sure you mark your calendar. You're going to learn, this, and this. In the members area, you have the JV email copy. So you have the email swipe copy that you can basically just use for a lot of these emails. You're basically just pulling the same bullet points and restating the benefits. So you see here in day 1, let's say you're going to send them an email saying the webinar is today. And you're going to restate the benefits. On this webinar, you'll learn the number one way to generate high-quality leads for your business, how you can scale this up, how you can test on a small scale to confirm it works, and then scale up massively, whatever the benefits are, which you see in the email copy, which is I believe, in the resources section of the members area. So the webinar is today. Thanks for registering. The next day, they get an email, webinars today. And you see, I just kind of broke this up, just so that I know a lot of people aren't comfortable mailing people every single day. I will say this: when someone first gets on your email list or first registers for your webinar, they are much hotter at that point. So you don't want to wait too long. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to mail people more than once or twice a week. Well, I think that's actually a mistake. And in fact, right now there's a lot of research being done on behavioral targeting, and someone who opens an email today is going to be much more likely to open an email tomorrow. Right? So you want to, if someone is hot right now, if someone just registered for your webinar today, it makes sense that you would email them again tomorrow, right? Because they just showed interest today already. So especially if the webinar is tomorrow, obviously you want to mail them about that. But don't be afraid, especially in the beginning, to mail people frequently, because it's better than not mailing people. If someone registers for your webinar and you don't send them an email for a week, that's horrible. That's a really, really bad thing to do. They might not even remember who you are, after that long of a time. So I think it's actually important. For here, I just spaced it out. Day 0, day 1, day 3, day 5, day 7, just to kind of space it out a little. You can mail more frequently than this, but this is just an example. I would think at the minimum, you would want to mail it with at least this much frequency. Even conservatively, I think you would mail with this much frequency. You have to stay in front of them. Don't be afraid to mail a lot. So webinars today, and restate the benefits again. So basically, if the webinar is on day 1, then you might want to take a day off on day 2, and then come back on day 3 and say, hey, we're holding an encore webinar. In case you missed the webinar a couple days ago, click this link and attend today's webinar. Right? And it'll just take you to, with Easy Webinar, by the way, that link will just always take them to the next webinar that day. So that's the beauty of it. You can literally have an evergreen funnel here that says webinars, hey, if you missed the webinar a couple of days ago, we're having another one today. Click this link. Right? And it takes them to the next webinar. So then you're going to wait, take a day off on day 4, and come back day 5 and say, hey, we have the webinar replay online. And ideally, you would want to give it a time limit. Only for the next 72 hours, the webinar replays online. So research has shown that when you give people a time limit, they're much, much more likely to watch to actually consume the video, to watch the replay. If you just say, hey, webinar replays online, watch it whenever you feel like it, they're not going to watch it. If you say, hey, webinar replay comes down tomorrow, then they're going to watch it. In fact, there's been tons of research and studies, and people have seen that the last day of any promotion, that's why you specifically always want to send out an email on the last day of any promotion. Sometimes you want to send 2 emails out on the last day. Like this day 7 would be webinar replay comes down today, right? That's going to be you're probably going to get the most people watching and signing up for your services, believe it or not, on that last day when webinar replay comes down. And this is really important. I've actually seen promotions before, when people do promotions, and they're thinking, oh man, this is not going well at all, and then they take their foot off the gas, like right on the last 2 days. And it's like probably the biggest mistake I see when people are doing sort of like promotions or, you know, whatever you want to call it, a product launch or whatever. You know, in this case, you're launching your service or you're doing this automated webinar launch funnel, whatever you want to call it, right? You know, is that a lot of the sales will come on your last day or two. So keep that in mind. You know, even if you don't get any sales from your initial webinar, you have to send them to the encore. You have to send them to the replay, because, you know, you'll see, you potentially can get, you know, 2 or 3 clients sign up on the last day. You might get 0, and you might be like, oh, this is not going well. And then on the last day, you send out those 1 or 2 emails, and you get 2 or 3 people signing up. So very important that, you know, I just want to really make sure everyone realizes that never give up too early. Especially when you're a day or 2 away from the end, make sure you push hard until the end, and especially on those last couple of days. Very, very, very important. For some reason, everyone waits until the end. So then after you've gone through this sequence here.
Just a comment about that. Two fundamental primal realities for human beings and other species as well. Number 1, when you chase them, they run away. But number 2, the minute you start to take something from someone, they grab to get it back. And so when you announce that the webinar replay comes down today, people act. It is primal. It is so absolutely, inviolably, unarguably true.
Yep.
Absolutely. When we sell stuff with Planet Perry, there's a huge uptick in people buying on the very last day. So just wanted to toss that in.
Yep. Absolutely. So again, I highly recommend that you do have some sort of deadline. I mean, even if you're just taking the webinar replay down, you know, for a few weeks or something, or you know, whatever it is, it should be, you know, you want to make it real. But like in the end of the day, if they're not going to watch it now, they're probably not going to watch it next week. So say, you know, you can come back again in a month or 2. That's fine. But you know, again, anytime you can have a hard deadline for anything, it's going to be more effective, just like we said. So then if you took a couple of days off there, then you can come back with some content. So you've hit them with the webinar, encore webinar, webinar replay. So give them a little content here, right? Warm them up a little bit again, for especially those that didn't purchase yet, right? So then you might do the free white paper. Send them the free white paper. Then, you know, you might on day 15, you can take the content tips straight from the webinar. So the webinar has, you know, easily 4 or 5 really good, juicy pieces of content. Like content tip number 1 could be, you know, biggest mistake that most people make is not using a landing page for their Google AdWords, right? And then you could talk about how you could potentially double the amount of leads for the same amount of money spent if you have a landing page. That could be content tip number 1, right? Taken from the webinar. So literally, another thing is never assume that everyone watches everything or reads all your emails. And even if they did, don't assume that they remember it, right? So, you know, it's really important to pull out these content tips from the webinar individually and feed it to people, you know, little bites at a time as well. So that's why I like this follow-up here. So day 15, give them another content tip. Day 19, another content tip. So now you've warmed them up here. You haven't hit them with any offers for, you know, looks like 12, 13, 14 days here, about 2 weeks. You haven't even hit them with an offer. You're giving them 3 pieces of content just to kind of keep them warm. And then maybe you come back day 23 with, you know, the sales video, you know, or sending them to your own, in your landing page generator, you have the landing page for your own lead generation business, which has the sales video on it. You know, maybe you send them to that sales video or the attorney PPC sales video, and again, you say, hey, you know, watch this video. It comes down in 72 hours. Then maybe you come back a couple days later. You say, hey, video comes down today. Watch it now. And then, you know, maybe a few days later, you come back with another content tip from the webinar. Okay, and this is pretty much a 30-day client landing funnel here. Now, what I would encourage you to do here is to then continue to do this over and over. So, I mean, literally, you might want to take a week off or just continue to drip out content once a week for a couple more weeks, but then I would literally go back a month or 2 later and do this whole same process again and invite them to the webinar again. You know, especially if you're dealing with lawyers, a lawyer you could be sending them this whole sequence of webinar, encore webinar, webinar replay. They might be in court that week. They might be busy that week. They might be traveling that week. Right? But if you come back a month later, they showed interest, they registered for the webinar, they're on your email list, you've been warming them up, so now they look at you as someone who knows their stuff, right? So come back a month or 2 later again with another webinar. It's an automated sequence. Say, hey, just want to invite you. We're holding another webinar again this week. Here's the link. and then send out you could go through this whole process again, maybe not using the same tips again, but the webinar itself and the webinar replay. So that's how I would say build an email list, really have multiple touches on them, multiple chances to convert them into a client. And again, I would do this and then continue to follow up with them. Keep in mind, some people will buy 2, 3, 4, 6 months, a year down the road from now. So just continue to nurture them and keep them on your list, and that's the best advice I can give you. Continue to nurture them and continue to make an offer to them. So that's the client landing funnel. Real quick, we've touched on this on the last training, but again, the LinkedIn messaging with the subject line private invite from your name. We've got in the Google group, we posted the Google Chrome plugin. And you want to be careful how many messages you send, but again, this could be a very effective form of prospecting, especially if you're prospecting a specific niche and sending them to that specific webinar and then putting them through that entire funnel, right? We've also talked about this in the last couple previous training webinars, so I'm not going to go through them again, but I just wanted to touch on them again as far as getting people to your webinars, the different ways that you can do that as well. Now, another thing I wanted to mention as a side benefit of webinars, and then I'm going to get into, then we'll take some questions after, but I just have a few more slides on why people should choose you as a PPC consultant versus anyone else that they could choose. Okay, but one side benefit I want to mention, and these side benefits, additional things of value that you can bring to the table, is with these webinars, once you do this webinar sequence and all that kind of stuff, you actually can start landing even maybe a little bit outside of the local business PPC niche, or maybe within local business niche, some of these people want to have more of a funnel or an autoresponder sequence like this, or they want to maybe have an automated webinar. So when you do this for yourself, you can you have more tools in your toolbox, and that really leads me to some of the things I'm going to talk about here about why a local business should choose you versus other people. And then we'll take some. I just have about 6 or 7 points of why they should choose you, and then we'll get into the Q&A here. So number one is, this is obviously, we know this already, most PPC managers do not create high converting landing pages, which in my opinion is the most important part. Most people think that PPC is about keywords. I think that yes, there's obviously a component of keywords, but I think landing pages are the most important part and conversion is the most important part. You know that already being in this program, but it's basically what I'm talking about here for you is when you're talking to a prospective client, especially recently, I've been speaking with a couple of lawyers who, one of them I landed and the second one I'm in the process of landing right now. And these are lawyers that came from PPC management companies that were actually pretty good. So one client that I recently took over, she spent $70,000 US because she's in England, so she spends pounds. So it was about 50,000 pounds, I think, which is about 70,000 US. And so she had a PPC management company running her campaigns previously, and they actually did have call conversion tracking in place, which was one of the first times I've ever seen that as far as taking over an account or doing an audit on an account that actually had the call conversion tracking in place. So they actually had that. So I'll tell you kind of some of the things here that I was saying to her, which helped me win the business. Number one, she actually did see one of my PPC presentations, so she was obviously, again, I can't remember if she saw one of my webinars or a recording of something that I put up online, but basically she saw one of my presentations, so that was one of the first things. That's why we do the webinars and all that kind of stuff. But with her, I'll get into actually some of the things because there's some of the next bullet points of how I landed her and then this new prospective client as well. So the first two things I mentioned is, like when I'm talking about the prospective client, first thing is, well, did you have a good high converting landing page? Right, and that's number one. So I don't need to really expand. You're familiar with that. Number two is, are you doing call conversion tracking? This is a huge selling point. I think if you've heard the recorded phone call of me signing up that lawyer, you heard his reaction when I talked about the call conversion tracking and how we're going to be able to track every keyword and add, and know exactly which keywords are generating the lowest cost per conversion for us and which ones are not working for us, and then we can fine tune the campaign accordingly. So you're not just flying blind, right? Like, it's very easy to show someone, like, if you're not tracking call conversions, you're just spending money on 50 keywords, let's say, and 25 of them might not even be profitable for you. So if you can pause at those 25 that are not profitable and let the winners run, then that's a huge benefit. And that's really clear for them to see, very easy for them to see. So it's a great selling point. Even though they have to pay themselves, I mean, all of my clients pay for the call conversion tracking system themselves. And again, I use Bionic Click. Other people have used CallRail with success, and we, they've posted that in the Google group. But, this is a huge selling point. Even though the client's going to pay for it, it's something that you're doing that other people are not. Landing pages is one, call conversion tracking is number two. Number three is that you're going to be writing and split testing good ads. So that's another one a lot of PPC managers don't do. Now here's a new one that has been working really well for me, and that is Facebook retargeting. So I say that not only am I going to implement regular retargeting, I'm actually going to implement Facebook retargeting for you too. And Facebook retargeting right now, I mentioned it on the last webinar, is one of the highest ROIs that I'm seeing from any type of advertising, right? And so I explain it to them. I'm like, oh, you're not doing Facebook retargeting? Oh man, Facebook retargeting is awesome right now. It's totally crushing. It's one of the best ROIs I've seen out of anything that any form of advertising that I've done in recent time. I mean, just think about it. People are hitting your site, and then let's say you're an injury lawyer, right? And you're paying a lot of money for that click, and they're hitting your website, and then let's be honest, 80% of them are not turning into a lead, right? If you have a 20% conversion, which, by the way, I met one of my students at the event last week who said that these landing pages with the landing page generator are converting for him at 30% across 3 different niches, which was really great to hear. But let's just say that you say to them when you're talking to a prospective client, okay, so let's say that you converted 20% of the people. That means 80% of the people that went to your website obviously showed some sort of interest but didn't convert into a lead. Well, now later on, they're going about their day and they're scrolling through their Facebook news feed, and then there's a sponsored post from you right there saying, hey, if you've been injured in an accident, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Remember, it's a free consultation and there's no fee unless we win the case for you. Call us now. Right? And so it's a great way to be retargeting is highly effective, and then you're telling them about Facebook retargeting, and then they might say, oh yeah, I've been wanting to do Facebook ads. And I'll say, well, no, there's a difference here. Facebook ads are not going to be as effective for you as Google ads are, but Facebook retargeting is absolutely unbelievable. The clicks are super cheap. You might get 50-cent clicks, and retargeting really highly qualified prospect. So now I'm like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Facebook ads are not as good for me as Google ads are, but Facebook retargeting is, and it's a great way for me. It's just the education-based stuff, and they get excited by this. And their current PPC manager, I can probably almost guarantee you, is not doing Facebook retargeting. So what are you doing differently, right? So that's what I kind of mentioned here. So on the last slide, we went through the first 3. What are you doing differently, right? Good landing page, call conversion tracking, good high converting ads. I'm also going to implement Facebook retargeting for you. And then another one is with this new client that I landed, where Facebook retargeting was a huge selling point. I also said, oh, are you on Yahoo and Bing right now? And they're like, oh, well, our PPC management company a long time ago set up a Yahoo Bing account for us, but I don't think it was going well, so we just stopped it. And I don't really know what's going on with that, right? So I said, okay, well, Yahoo and Bing are really coming up right now. And by the way, this is another good talking point. And I don't know how many of you use Firefox, but I use Firefox. And I used to always just type things into my browser, like a Google search. Instead of going to google.com and typing the search in the search bar, I would just type it in my browser. Well, I used to get Google results. Now, since Yahoo and Bing just did some deal with Firefox, now when I type in my browser, I get Yahoo search results. I actually just figured out a way to change the setting because it was messing me up. Like, I'm so used to Google, and it was like dropping me on a Yahoo search results, and I'm like, no, I can't even look at a Yahoo search result. I need Google, and I would literally even though it's probably the same result as Google, I would go to Google.
That's like a nightmare.
Yeah, right? And now you're like, no, Yahoo, I can't look at Yahoo search results, even though it's probably the same results as Google. But yeah, so anyway, Yahoo and Bing are actually really starting to come up, I think, and that deal with Firefox, I think, was a really big deal for them. So again, now you're educating them. Oh yeah, Yahoo and Bing's coming up. Hey, did you know that you might be able to get cheaper clicks on Yahoo and Bing, potentially a cheaper cost per lead? And again, that's not always going to be the case, but it is some of the time the case that you can get cheaper clicks on Yahoo and Bing. And for this new lawyer, I got her up on Yahoo and Bing, and she is actually getting clicks. This is in the UK, but she's actually getting clicks for 1/3 the price that she's paying on AdWords for the same clicks. So and the conversion is the same. So she's literally getting leads for 1/3 the price and clicks for 1/3 the price that she's paying on AdWords. And she would have never known if we didn't try that. So, by the way, the previous PPC management company that she had, even though they were tracking conversions, they weren't doing a great job optimizing for conversions. So even though they were tracking conversions, they didn't have their ads set to optimize for conversions. They weren't like pausing keywords or adjusting bids. So I go in there and I'm like, okay, well, this keyword's giving us a cost per lead of $60 a lead, and this other keyword's giving us cost per lead of $35 a lead. And our average cost per lead for the whole campaign is $45 a lead. So the one that's $60, $65, $70, $80, $85 a lead, I'm going to either pause those keywords or lower my bid on those keywords. So I'm doing like a balancing act there to get them more leads. Obviously, I'm optimizing for conversion. So a lot of, so this company was not even doing that. So I optimized for conversions. I made a few changes to their landing pages. Weren't great, so we kind of redid some of the landing pages a little bit, optimized for conversion, got them on Yahoo and Bing, implemented Facebook retargeting, and now, I mean, she's like it's night and day, the results. And and by the way, this was a good PPC management company like that I took it over from. Like, they knew how to set up a campaign. But again, setting up a Google campaign with ad groups, that's the easy part in my opinion. Right, so they had that all set up for me, which was actually really nice because I had a lot of data in there, which is a nice thing about taking over accounts sometimes is that you have data in there, especially in this case because they actually had conversion data, but they weren't really utilizing it very well. So, again, she had her best week ever a few weeks ago, and, she's already like she literally just sent me an email referring 2 other people to me just a couple days ago. And so, I mean, that's the power of really getting great results for someone and then them referring you other people and all that kind of stuff. So a 6th one. Now, here is something interesting. Does AdWords help your organic SEO results? And someone asked me this, and this has been a couple people asked me this recently, and I actually met a guy who his company was in negotiations to be acquired by Google. And actually, I went to this startup event in San Francisco. There was like something for startup companies and stuff, and I was like, oh, that was cool. Let me check that out and see if I meet any cool startup companies that maybe I can do marketing for and stuff. So it was kind of one of those things. My buddy was going, so we went over there. Now, one of the speakers, I actually went up after and was asking him questions, and one of the people I met was, one of the speakers had an in with Google and had grown a company to, I don't know, $1 billion or whatever it was. Actually, the name of the company was Thumbtack. You might have heard of them. They actually sell leads to local businesses, and it's called Thumbtack. So they do SEO and PPC. So they rank organically and they do PPC. And he said to me, because someone mentioned something like, oh yeah, doesn't AdWords help your SEO? Just kind of in passing, I overheard it. And I was like, I don't think that's the case. And this guy said, yes, it does. He goes, when we started doing AdWords, and we even spoke to people at Google, when we started doing AdWords, our SEO results went through the roof. Now, again, there's no confirmation of this. This is not like Google would never say this probably because, some people might see it as a conflict of interest, but in reality, they don't make any money on SEO, right? They make their money on Google AdWords. That's where they make their profits. So it would kind of make sense. So then I was kind of thinking about it, and one of my clients that I've been working with for a couple of years now, when I started working with him and really got him going on AdWords, he had like a small AdWords account spending maybe $2,000 a month, and then I fine-tuned everything and got it all dialed in, and now he's spending over $15,000 a month. I think maybe $16,000 last month, and now he told me he wants to even spend more and go broader. So, I mean, when we juiced up his AdWords, his organic rankings went through the roof. Literally, he's doubled his organic traffic as well. So, and then the other person who I met at this startup conference, who was actually in negotiations to be acquired by Google, he literally was meeting with them every couple weeks to negotiate his company being bought out by them. He said the same thing, that he specifically even asked them, and they said yes. Again, I don't know what kind of merit this holds or whatever it is, but it was just interesting for me to hear. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I believe, I'm a believer that AdWords does help your organic rankings. That it may be hard to prove or not prove, but that's something interesting to know, and it could be an interesting talking point as well. But the last one, number 7, was interesting, is that this is a new prospect that I've been speaking with recently, who I just had a phone call with 2 days ago, actually. And they said, oh yeah, we spent $25,000 a couple months ago. It was a big lawyer who has, I think like 10 offices or something. And he said, yeah, we spent like 25 grand a couple months ago and didn't work out for us or something like that. And so I'm waiting for them to let me audit the account right now. And I basically started talking, hey, you know, for personal injury lawyers, you know, we're getting conversions from mobile for much cheaper than we are on desktop. So, you know, we can optimize for convert. And so he said that they did have a call tracking thing. Well, I don't think he really knew, but he thought that they had call tracking in place. He thought that they had set up landing pages as well. But I just know, first of all, if you're spending $25,000 in a month and you're not happy with the results, you should be able to fine tune that down to 10 or 15,000, right? You should be able to pause. If you're tracking conversion, you should be able to pause all your lowest performing keywords and at least keep your best keywords. So even if you only spend 10 grand, you know, you're cutting out the 15 grand of your lowest performing keywords and ads, right? So you should be able, so for me, if you go from 25 grand to nothing, that just almost doesn't make sense. Like go from 25 grand to 10 grand and pause all your non-performing keywords and just keep the few winners, right? So I know there's a lot there, and I started talking to them, and they said, yeah, well, we do want more mobile conversions. You're right. The mobile leads are really good for us and all this kind of stuff. And I said, you know, mobile conversions I'm getting for less than half what I'm getting on desktop for personal injury lawyer. You know, so, you know, I could optimize your campaign for mobile. We can lower your desktop bid and raise your mobile bid by 300% so that you're bidding, you know, 3-4 times as much for mobile as you are for desktop, and thus you'll get more clicks and more leads and a bigger percentage of your ad spend be going towards mobile. So just kind of getting creative with big ideas, because I was selling against supposedly a pretty advanced, you know, he thought they were known as the best PPC management company in the world. I don't even remember what their name was, but he said, oh, I don't think they're the problem. They're one of the best well-known PPC management companies, and we paid them a lot of money and all this kind of stuff. And I'm basically trying to tell him, like, you know, obviously if you went from 25,000 to nothing, there's something they could have done, and I'm just trying to wrap his head around the fact that not all PPC managers are the same. So it was interesting, but these are some of the things. Again, he loved when I talked about Facebook retargeting. He loved when I talked about Yahoo and Bing and the potential cheaper click. He loved when I talk about we can get mobile conversions, you know, and he loved the fact that, you know, we have a proven high converting landing page that will convert better, all that kind of stuff. So these are some of the biggest reasons why people should choose you, some biggest talking points that you should have in the front of your mind when speaking with potential clients.
Tal0R, can you go over all those starting with reasons 1 through 3 again?
Yep.
One of our attendees has been patiently waiting for you to go back over that. So thank you.
And yeah, we can give the slides also for this as well after. But again, number 1, most PPC managers don't do the high converting landing page. Number 2, most of them are running AdWords without call conversion tracking, which means they don't even know which keywords are performing. Number 3, most of them are not copywriters. They don't know how to write good ads, and you have specific ad writing strategies that are proven to work. Number 4, you will implement also retargeting and Facebook retargeting for them. Again, this is just a really hot topic right now, so it works really well. Number 5, you can potentially get them clicks for much cheaper and leads for cheaper from Yahoo and Bing as well, and that these search engines are coming up. That's a great talking point as well. Does AdWords help your organic rankings? Is something you want to just kind of keep that in the back, you know, in your back pocket in case it comes up, or something you may want to mention. If they're like, oh, well, we're doing SEO, or we're just doing SEO and all that kind of stuff, you can say, well, you know, it's not proven, but we've heard from people that have actually done negotiations with Google themselves who were, you know, basically have confirmed with us that AdWords does help your organic rankings. It's hard to prove, but, you know, again, could be a talking point. And number 7 is that you can optimize for mobile conversions to get them much cheaper conversions. So those are the 7 there as well. And I can go back and leave some of those up for a little longer if you want, while we're taking some more questions.
Okay, so here is a question from Betsy, which I'm modifying somewhat. Tal0R, do you do display advertising on Google Display Network? And if so, do you charge the client extra for doing so?
I rarely do it for local businesses. First of all, and I do mention in Module 5 about expanding or contracting your campaign. And so Display Network would be way later on down the road. So I think I even talk about this, right? So the first thing you want to do is obviously set up their AdWords account, right? And then retargeting within AdWords. Then to scale up from there, if they want more traffic after that, So you really want them to be maxed out on what they can spend on the Google Search Network before you even think about doing Google Display Network. Specifically for local businesses. Local businesses are very specific search to Google search. Someone specifically looking for a chiropractor or a lawyer or a dentist, they are specifically typing that into Google. So the quality of the lead, and some people might say, oh, well, you can get display network clicks for, $2, but personal injury lawyer, you might pay $40, $50, $60 for a click. So shouldn't I do display network? And the answer is no, because it's just you can get 100 clicks at $2, but probably not even get one conversion for a personal injury lawyer if you're just targeting a broad market compared to someone who literally is typing in personal injury lawyer into Google. So yeah, believe it or not, regardless of how cheap the clicks may be on display network, in my opinion, what I found for local businesses, it's not one of the first things it would do. It's later on if you're really scaling up. So step one is AdWords, max out what they could spend on AdWords search network. Step two, and also have retargeting and Facebook retargeting too, right? And then the next thing would be to copy the campaigns over to Yahoo and Bing search engines. And then once they're on Yahoo and Bing search engines and they're spending as much as they could possibly spend there, then you've maximized all the search traffic. So keep this in mind, search traffic is the highest quality traffic. It's the number one thing you want to focus on. So Google search and then Yahoo and Bing search. Once you're running and maxed out on what you can spend on all of those and they still want more, then you would potentially go to display network after that, in my opinion. So that would be my order of priority there of how I would expand.
Good, that makes sense. Tal0R, you took the words right out of my mouth. When people are directly and proactively searching for a particular kind of attorney, it's just a different kind of prospect entirely from someone you'll find on the display network. Not that we would discourage people from testing out the display network. By the way, Betsy asked, do you have resources for designing banner ads? Google has their own native banner ad creator, which you can certainly use. If you do want to test and do banner ads, then a good longtime friend of Planet Perry is Laura Huseman. And she's a friend of Perry's, literally. They're like neighbors. And she knows and understands Planet Perry people really, really well, and AdWords and so on. And she designs she's a graphic designer who designs banner ads specifically for them. So she's banneradqueen.com, and I just put a link in the chat box for that. So, Betsy, thank you for that question. Michael asks, with that high-end designer that Tal0R just mentioned, what is his process for finding keywords when starting out with someone in a new industry like that?
With the high-end interior designer person?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so that's good too. I'm glad this question came up, because it did also come up in the Google group, and it did also come up at the event. Someone actually this was a good tool someone was using is SpyFu, right? So spyfu.com. Spyfu.com is, and I think there's another one too, a different one, but I've personally used SpyFu in the past. But typically you can just get it for 1 month. SEM Rush is another one, I believe. But so this person in the mastermind session at the event said that they use SpyFu as a tool to land clients. And I can't remember exactly. They were just using it to do a lot of competitive research, and I can't remember exactly how they were using it. But gosh, I can't remember how they were using it to land client. I wish I could remember. Maybe someone can post it to the Google group if you remember how he said he was using SpyFu to land clients. But basically, he was showing them something about how their competitor. He was approaching people that spent money, and basically SpyFu can even estimate how much they actually spend. Also can show you potentially what their keywords are, or for any competitor, you can see what keywords they're bidding on and what ads they're running and how long they've been running those ads. I will tell you that it's not completely accurate, because I've tried it on my own clients to see what would come up. So it's not entirely 100% accurate. So you have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. But it does give you, it's great for ideas. So for example, I probably would, because I have no idea about the interior designer, interior decorating niche, although I imagine it would probably be pretty obvious. Again, I always start, it's almost like embarrassingly simple how I start. I would literally ask the client, my first thing is, what do you think your ideal client would be typing into Google when they're looking for you? The first thing I would do is ask my client, number one, if I'm not familiar with the niche. Then she'd probably say, well, they'd probably say interior designer or architectural designer or, whatever it is. I mean, those will probably be the top ones, right? Like, there's probably not going to be, people think that you're going to find some magical keyword that no one's ever thought of before. And yes, that happens sometimes. But to be quite honest with you, I mean, like, an interior designer is going to probably be able to tell me all the keywords that her ideal clients are typing. But because it's a new niche that I haven't worked in before, I probably would use SpyFu. And you can just sign up for a month if you want to just use it real quick for a month. And I probably would type in her competitors, right? So you can, you can type in the keyword in SpyFu, or you can just do a Google search and see which of her competitors are advertising, and then type in their website domain into SpyFu, and it will show you, okay, these are the keywords that we believe that they're bidding on. And a lot of the keywords, now here's the thing, right? Number one, don't assume that their competitors know what they're doing. So, I've ran it on some of my competitors, and I'm like, either these keywords are not correct or these people have no idea what they're doing. So you're really more looking at it as a research and analysis thing. Like for me, I just go through the competitors to see if there's some keyword that I hadn't thought of before that I just found, right? So maybe there's like, I had all these interior designer keywords, and I go through my competitors' keywords, and I see a keyword that's interior decorator. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think of decorator before. I was only using the keyword designer. So, and again, the simple Google keyword tools as well will probably, again, I just use it for ideas. I don't really pay too much attention to what the estimated search volume and this and that is. I usually just, I'll just use it for ideas of what I think. And again, I don't start broad. I start with the most targeted keywords, and I always can expand from there. But SpyFu is a great resource. It is you do have to pay for it. And I don't think that you always need it, but if it's a brand new niche that you don't have any experience in, and if it's a bigger client, or if you just want to, you can, by the way, the free, if you go there and try to do a free version, they'll only give you like 5 results, or they'll limit your results. So you probably just got to sign up for a month if you really want to use it. It's a good tool.
So good. David asks, what do you think about the find the leads first and then sell them model?
What's that? Say that again.
He says, what do you think about the find the leads first and then sell them model?
I don't understand. Find the leads first and then sell, and then I'm not sure I understand the question.
David, you can elaborate on that. We'll go on we'll go on to the next question. Does Easy Webinar Launch have a sales page that describes their features a bit more? Because I did put the link in the chat box, but it's a shopping cart page.
Yeah. So if you go to the homepage, easywebinar.com, he just set up that link, for you guys, the 6-month trial. But if you go to their, just the homepage, easywebinar.com.
Okay.
Just easywebinar.com is their homepage. Yeah, you could see all the features and all that kind of stuff.
Good, and I'll type that into the chat box. There we go. Next question. Michael says, what are your thoughts on sending people to a video immediately from an email or ad versus sending people to sign up for a webinar? I go back and forth. I could just record a video and send people to it versus doing the whole webinar thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, in the end of the day, you could test different things. The reason why I like the webinar, and maybe you could do this for a video as well, although it may not get the same results, but what I am encouraging you to do is get the opt-in. I'm encouraging you to have people enter their email in order to get your free webinar or free training. And the people that are really serious will probably enter their email. Now, another thing is, by the way, Facebook retargeting could be good for you to do for yourself. If you're doing a lot of prospecting and sending a lot of traffic to, let's say you were just sending them to a video page, right? Or any kind of opt-in or registration page, you might want to do your own Facebook retargeting. So again, it's really simple to do. You could just do a Google search for how to set up Facebook retargeting, and you'll probably hit the Facebook.com page that gives you the instructions on how to, it's real simple. You go in the audiences and just get the code and put it on whatever page you want to do, right? It's real simple to set up. And then you could be retargeting those people that hit your video page with a newsfeed ad in their newsfeed, right? So I recommend you use it as well, especially if you're not only driving, very, very low traffic, then it may not be that big of an impact. But If you're doing this consistently, I would recommend you do it as well. But I think you want to get the opt-in. You could send them straight to a video. You could try that. And I did that. I actually used to send traffic straight to the attorney PPC sales video, and I definitely did get consultations out of it. But then when I looked back several months later, I was like, crap, I don't have any email list. I can't go back to those people ever again, right? So it's kind of a one and done approach if you're not getting their email. So I really want you to build an email list, even if it's slow. I mean, if you think about it, if by the end of this year you had an email list of even just 1,000 or 2,000 people in a certain niche, like 1,000 or 2,000 lawyers or dentists or chiropractors or whatever, I mean, that would be an asset. You'd probably be able to land a client a month if you treated that email list right. And did webinars frequently and did, gave them content and nurtured them the right way, you could probably land a client or two a month from an email list of a couple thousand or a few thousand people if you treat them right, So that's what I would encourage you to get the opt-in,
Okay, Michael asks, if you are driving traffic to a sales video, are you really taking down the video? That would mean taking down the video every month and so on. Is that what you're doing?
So I'm actually looking into right now with my funnel. There's something, and I haven't used it yet, so I can't vouch for it, but I'll just say the name because I've heard of other people using it. It's called Timerlay, Timerlay, Timerlay. I think it's timerlay.com. I don't know, or just Google Timerlay. I haven't purchased it yet, but I'm probably about to this week or next week, most likely. And basically, that Timerlay thing will allow you to basically have it so that whenever someone hits a page, it starts the countdown timer for a certain period of time once they hit the page. So I'm going to look into that because I think it's quite interesting, and I've heard of several people using it and with good success for automated kind of evergreen funnels like this. And so regardless of whenever someone hits that page, it'll say the countdown will start, and then it'll come down or whatever, however long you set it, 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever it is. So that's what I would say. But I would say otherwise, if you don't do that, I would say yes. I would take the sales video down and then, pop up with it again a month or two later. I would take it down because, you're going to get more people watching it. You probably get more people watching it in the last 2 days before it comes down than you would in the entire month if you just left it up the whole time for a month. Right? So, here's another way to go about it. If you don't feel comfortable, if you don't want to use Timerlay, or if you don't feel comfortable taking it down and putting it back up every couple months or whatever, here's another option. So, and actually, I do have this set up like this. Actually did this for one of my clients as well. So, by the way, again, it was an additional added value that I brought to the table for one of these other clients is that I built out an autoresponder sequence. So I helped them. They had no upsells, no autoresponder sequence, nothing like that. It was a little bit different, not so much a local client. They sell like online certifications and things like that. So anyway, and this is the guy that I partner with, that I partner with for a percentage of his increase in sales. I think I've told you guys this previously. So I implemented this autoresponder sequence, and what I do is I actually have it say, so I actually have like these fire sales. He doesn't. I actually have these fire sales in his autoresponder sequence. So one is like, hey, 35% off for the next, 35% off if you order this product this week or something like that. And then like 2 days later, I'll come back and say, hey, final reminder. This is the last time I'm going to remind you about this special sale, right? So you can position it as like final reminder, like this is the last time I'm going to notify you about this this video. So there's different ways you can structure it like that without getting kind of too without overcomplicating it too much. But yeah, so that could be, you could just leave it out without a countdown timer and say, hey, this is the last time I'm going to tell you about this, so make sure you go watch it now. I think it is more effective if you actually do have a countdown timer and take it down, or if you can use Timerlay or something like that, that would be ideal. Yeah.
Good. So back to David's question, he says, what I meant was some people set up a campaign or landing page with their own account. They find leads and redirect them to potential clients. Instead of a fixed monthly retainer fee, they sell leads individually. Sorry for the confusion. Is that a model you've ever followed? Yeah,
I have done this model before, and someone asked me about this at the event as well, that they were thinking about this. So here's the thing. I actually did have a big I had a big a company pay me $15,000, and then they reordered again and paid another $15,000 for leads. And you know, I did probably make close to 50% margin on it, so it actually was quite nice. But it was a whole, I mean, I was doing all sorts of tricks and things, and it's a whole long, complicated story. But in the end of the day, here's my opinion on selling leads. And actually, it was funny because one of the people in the mastermind session who owns the program was actually a business owner himself, who kept saying, like, who said that he had worked with someone who sold leads before, because he kept saying, well, you know, why don't you just sell me leads individually or something? And the person said, fine, I'll sell you leads. And here was the situation, and this is exactly what I found, and exactly why I personally want no part of selling, selling leads individually, is that basically, when you get them that lead that lands them a $20,000 client, well, that's just a normal lead. But when you get them a lead that doesn't convert into a client, well, they want their money back for that lead. That shouldn't count. That lead shouldn't count, right? So it's always like, oh, and the business owner started laughing. The guy who was in the room, he started laughing. Goes, yeah. He's like, anytime I get a lead that's not a good lead, I always give them pushback, and I always emailing them saying, hey, this lead shouldn't count. It wasn't a good lead, right? So like, in the end of the day, in lead generation, you're going to get good leads and you're going to get bad leads. That's part of the game, right? So, but like when you're selling leads, it's a nonstop haggling process. It's a nonstop. This lead shouldn't count. This lead should count. This one, this one was a good one. It wasn't a good one. Even if you set standards like any phone call that lasts more than a minute or more than 2 minutes is a lead, it still can get like, weird and just like, so for me, it's just really high maintenance. The last thing I want is to be emailing back and forth every day or every week even with my clients about which leads should count and which ones shouldn't count, and doing an accounting over the leads and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I want this to be a lot more passive and hands off. So that's why I don't like the pay per lead deal.
That is very helpful. David asks, how much money would we expect to spend on average to land a lawyer as a pay-per-click client?
How much would you expect to spend? I mean, if you do LinkedIn messaging and to a webinar that you got a free trial to that you just set up, then it would cost nothing to land them as a client. So as far as if you're doing cold traffic PPC, then I don't know what you would expect to land a client, but I would say that it's really hard to say. I mean, it's also going to depend on so many factors, how good your ad is and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not really I've done some Facebook ads and I've done a test on LinkedIn ads, but I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in those fields. But again, if you want to test it, I would say, hey, do a $500 test on Facebook and a $500 test on LinkedIn, and target lawyers or whoever else, and have an ad that's specific to lawyers, and a registration page or a sales video or wherever you're going to send them that's specific to them, and test it out. I'd like to think that you'd land a client, but it's hard for me to say things like that. Again, it all depends on how well you convert them, if you do speak with them on the phone, and there's just a lot of variety of factors. But there's lots of ways to land clients without paying for them as well.
Right. A lot of variables there, but your advice is really good. Like, set a dollar benchmark depending on how risk averse you are, and say, I'm going to run a test for this many dollars, this many $100, what have you, and see what I can make happen on Facebook, and then see what I can make happen elsewhere. So I think that's good advice. So Bill says, I've probably listened to the bonus webinar and webinar 2 at least half a dozen times, but I'm still not connecting how the webinar, attorney sales video, and landing page and white paper all connect into a single funnel. Could you clarify that again for me? Thanks.
Yeah, I was wondering if Bill, I don't know if he was at the beginning of this. Let me try to back up through the slides. Oops, hold on a second. Where was I? Oops. Go to slide 3. So basically here, I kind of covered this in the client landing funnel. So basically, this is just an autoresponder sequence. So they're getting on your email list here. So, I mean, I'm not sure how else to clarify that, but basically, this is all going on autopilot. So, by the way, just to clarify, this webinar and the Encore webinar and the webinar replay, like, that's all your one webinar. So you have a webinar that you record one time. And with Easy Webinar, you can either upload an MP4. So if you want to record it through Camtasia, I think there's a free trial of Camtasia. as well if you Google that. I use ScreenFlow on the Mac to do recorded videos. Like all the videos I did for the members area are done with ScreenFlow for a Mac. And same way you could record a whole webinar, or you could just literally do the first webinar live in Easy Webinar and record it, and then just tell Easy Webinar to play that recording, every day at 9 p.m. or Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 p.m. and Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 p.m., whatever time you want. And then basically people would come through the sequence here, and they'd get the webinar, email about a webinar here, email about Encore, email about replay, throw in some content, then the email goes out about a sales video. So this is just a series of emails, an autoresponder sequence, really. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure how to clarify that any further.
Okay. Bill can comment further if he needs to. So let's see. James says, I'm a marketing consultant who is already established in a niche, helping service companies that are not considered great pay-per-click candidates. Should I start in this niche to gain experience, or should I go after a higher paying niche?
That's an interesting question. Depends on how bad the niche is for PPC. There is another model I will mention. I'm not crazy about it, but I will mention it, and I know I've heard of a couple people doing this as well. And that is saying to someone, hey, you spend, let's say it is a small niche, right? And let's say though that you're good at PPC and you have a good landing page and you could generate leads for a really low cost per lead in that niche. So and I've seen actually quite a few people do this, and I've even worked behind the scenes for an agency that did this as well. And basically, you say, okay, well, you say it's $2,000 for Google Ads, and you basically take that $2,000 and you spend $1,000 on the ads, and you keep $1,000 for yourself. Now, obviously, you have to be getting them a good enough ROI from that money, where it makes sense for, or whatever it is, or let's say you spend $1,000 one month and they're like, hey, we're not getting enough leads for the money spent, then you could spend a few $100 more, and then maybe you make a little less, right? So there is that possibility where you could create your own Google account and pay for the ads with your own credit card, where you charge the client up front. I've actually seen quite a few ad agencies do this, where they literally say, okay, yeah, we'll spend. So you pay us $5,000, and we'll spend $3,500 on the ads and keep $1,500 for ourselves. So in a small niche, if you're able to get them really good results and you're able to get them leads for really cheap, you could potentially say, okay, pay me $2,000, and and then you spend $1,000 on the ads and keep $1,000 for yourself, or whatever the case may be, $1,200 on the ads and keep $800 for yourself, and then maybe if you can do enough volume, since you're already established in that niche. It might be something to try. So I would say test it, see how great the results are for your clients and how much they would be willing to pay you for that. But I do like the fact that if you're already established as a marketing consultant in a specific niche, I think it would be a real easy for you to, move your current clients over to PPC for that, or maybe just say, hey, let's do a test for a month. Pay me $2,000 and then spend $1,000 and see what they say. If they're thrilled, then keep the other $1,000 in your pocket. If they're not thrilled, then spend another $500 and put $500 in your pocket or something. I don't know, something like that. So that could be actually something interesting to do for a smaller niche, smaller type client like that. Not something I would usually recommend, but yeah, that could be interesting.
Okay, good. Nigel says, I have my first client and the ad has been running for about a week. The client went and set up a LinkedIn ad and directed it to the same landing page. I'm not too comfortable with this because I think it could distort the form tracking data. What's your opinion on that?
If you're tracking conversions correctly through AdWords, then it should not have an effect on that. So if you have if you use the landing page generator, there's a place in the landing page generator to enter the Google conversion code for when someone fills out a web form. If you created a landing page on your own, then you simply put it on the thank you page. And I'm pretty sure I go through this, in the training videos about how to set up conversion tracking the right way. So if you're tracking conversions the right way, then you'll be able to see within Google AdWords how many form leads, you'll be able to see all the conversions right there within your AdWords account. So I don't think if you're doing full tracking the way you should be, it shouldn't really matter if they're coming from another source as well. It shouldn't mess up your AdWords conversion data. But if you're not tracking conversions correctly, if you're not using Bionic Click or CallRail and doing the call conversion tracking, which is one of your biggest selling points that I mentioned, so you should be doing it. But if you're not, then in that case, yeah, I don't know, maybe it could mess up your stats. So.
Good. Frank asks, I'm curious if you've ever used auto dial calls, also known as robocalls, for prospecting.
I have not, but there was someone in the mastermind session last week that has used it very effectively, and he told me that he has landed 2 lawyer clients, and he told me that he actually charged them. I don't know if he was doing any other services, but he told me that he charged them $5,000 up front and $1,500 a month. And he's landed 2 attorneys, and it was from basically, I think he had said that he had a dialer, that he was doing like a mass, that he had a dialer that was just connecting him or doing whatever he was doing. I don't know exactly what it was. He said that he had researched it and it was all by, following all the rules of the law and all that kind of stuff. So, he basically had gone through all the laws very carefully and has figured out a way to do real high volume mass marketing within the way of the law. So yeah, I think it could be very beneficial. It's a way to really scale up quicker, right? Instead of dialing 1,000 people individually, have a dialer do it for you, assuming it's all, legal and by the book.
Good. Jan has some positive feedback for you. He says, I never thought of targeting lawyers before, so after your training, I got a hold of a mailing list for lawyers, sent a test of 391 on Saturday. I had 1 response, 80 opens, 9 clicks. I saw the prospect today. He signed up straight away. After talking to some lawyers, I noticed quite a few with an entrepreneurial approach. Another personal contact I follow up with is also keen. So, Jan, good on you for signing up a client. That's excellent.
Awesome.
So let's see. So Brian is expressing some concern because he has a thriving consulting business already. Using the methods that you're teaching, he hasn't landed any clients just yet. Tal0R, you can certainly comment on that. Brian, I'll invite you to share in the Google Plus community what steps you've actually taken, and if you have materials you can share with us. It might allow Tal0R or the rest of the group to give you some helpful feedback on things you might do differently or steps that you need to take in order to make that happen. Tal0R, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say. I mean, I'd love to know what you're doing, like what kind of consulting you're doing right now, and then what you've been trying to do to land them as clients. I would definitely say, and I would love to post in the Google group. One more thing about the Google group, and someone mentioned this to me. It's funny, like I met so many people that were landing clients and doing big things at the event, and I'm like, oh yeah, what's can you post that to the Google group? Like, are you? And they're like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm just like so busy like doing stuff that I'm like, I don't know. They're like, they're actually like out there doing stuff, doing the business, and they're not. I wish they would post more in the Google group, is what I'm saying. And like I'm trying to, like, a lot of these people, I'd never seen them posting in the Google group before, and they're out there landing lots of clients. So a couple of things. One of them said, a lot of people post in the Google group, and the post starts with Tal0R, can you help me, blah 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 blah. And I agree with what he said. The person said to me is like, there's a lot of other people in this group that could probably help you too.
Yep.
So I would love to get into the habit of everyone posting not with the name Tal0R in the beginning of the post, because quite frankly, it's not just for me to answer your questions. It's for you to get help from everyone in the group and for me to chime in as well if necessary. And the thing is, when we went around the room in that session, people had ideas that they were coming up with, and ways that they had figured out and ways that they had landing clients that I hadn't even thought of before. So there's lots of people landing clients in that group, and I would love for those people to share more. And maybe if you put posts out there and not have my name be the post be like specific to me, maybe they would respond more. Hopefully, and so I would just kind of say, post in the Google group. Don't post just specifically to me. Post to everyone, because lots of other people can answer your question, and there's a lot of people landing clients, like we just heard the person right now who's landing clients. So yeah, let's ask people, tell people what you're doing. Don't just say, hey, I'm not landing clients. So what are you doing that hasn't worked? And maybe someone has advice, or maybe someone can share what they're doing that has worked, is how I would probably phrase it. Yeah.
Good. Carol says Google has call forwarding extensions that you can insert into your ads to track call conversions. Is there a way to put those phone number extensions on your landing page as well using Landing Page Generator?
As far as I know, there's not a way to put the Google forwarding tracking number. I don't even think you would know what that number is. I'm not sure if you would or not, but as far as I know, you cannot. There's separate tracking for the landing pages. When someone hits your landing page, that tracking is in no way related to the call extensions. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Brian, who spoke up earlier, is just mentioning that he's using your program to go after higher paying clients, namely lawyers and dentists. The realtors and mortgage brokers have a pretty low cap on their monthly spend. So, so I encourage Brian to share as much as he can. Brian, I appreciate you doing it. Just share as much as you can in the Google Plus community, and I know that other people in the group can give you feedback. The more
I have talked about the mortgage niche before, and I think I spoke about it a little bit more at the event or in the session. But I think the mortgage niche can be interesting. But the way I've specifically advised people to go after the mortgage niche is to go after refinances, not going after buyer purchase business, going after refinances, and going after a specific type of refinance. So I think I've told the story how I had a lot of success for a client targeting the HARP refinance. So it was a special type. It was a very specific type of refinance. People typed in Google HARP refinance, HARP 2.0. They saw my client's ad that said HARP refinance. They went to their landing page, which was all about the HARP refinance, and they made a ton of money when HARP refinances were hot, which was really up until this year. Now there's not that many houses that are upside down, so the HARPs are a lot less volume now. But reverse mortgage would be another one, right? So if you were targeting reverse mortgage, you would have an ad, you'd bidding only on reverse mortgage keywords, have an ad about reverse mortgage, a landing page about reverse mortgage. So, and you want to be targeting refinances because a refinance, you get the person on the phone, and within 10 minutes you pretty much know if they're approved or not most of the time, and that deal is going to close in 30 days. So if a mortgage broker spends $5,000 this month on Google ads, if they land a couple of refinances within 30 days, they made their money back and they continue to invest over and over and over. Whereas if you go after the purchase business, or if a realtor was going after purchase business, it could take 7 months for someone to actually close the sale, and finally go through with the purchase of that home, where they would finally need the mortgage, and the mortgage broker would make a commission and the real estate agent would make the commission. So always go after the refinance business for mortgages, Brian. I would definitely say that. And I would say, again, like we spoke about earlier, the high-end realtors, if you want to go after realtors, but with mortgage brokers, go after a specific type of refinance. And by the way, if you really nail it with a specific type of refinance, like I did with HARP, I actually just duplicated that HARP campaign to a couple other HARP mortgage brokers in a couple of other states. So I basically had the landing page, had the keywords, had the ads that was crushing it for a HARP mortgage broker in one state, and then I took that and actually happened to know a friend of a friend who was a mortgage broker in another state, and I said, hey, I've got this HARP campaign that's crushing it over here. Why don't we implement it for you over there? And so I got another client like that. From doing that. So if you can really dial in, and here's the thing, right? So for a mortgage broker, you might test 3 different type of refinances. You might test reverse mortgage, you might test, HARP, you might test FHA streamline refinance or whatever, and you might set up a campaign and landing page for those 3 types. Maybe 1 out of the 3 doesn't work, or maybe 2 out of the 3 doesn't work, but 1 of them does work. Well, the one that works, you can now scale up and implement that one campaign that does work for all your other mortgage broker clients and all that kind of stuff. So, that would be my advice for the mortgage industry.
If you've ever done a refinance, those things can turn around very fast. So, absolutely. Good. Those are the last of the questions I have. Anyone else, if you have a question? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Better type lightning fast, because Tal0R, that's everything I've got coming through the question box. Any further things you want to add? And I'll keep an eye on
No,
this in
I
case
think
someone else
we
types
answered a lot of
something.
questions here, and definitely keep posting to the Google group,
Yeah.
like we just talked about, and seek out help from other people and ask what other people are doing. Because I imagine that I think if you ask 30 different people how they're landing clients, you literally might get 30 different responses. If there was one way and only one way, then I would definitely be sharing that one way with you. But looks like, as you can see, there's a multitude of ways. I've showed you with this client landing funnel what I think is the best way long term. This having them, sending people straight to a video could be good short term, but I think long term, having them opt in and get on your email list and nurturing them and treating this like a real business, a real email list, I think is going to be the most valuable for you long term as you continue to grow your list. So this is the strategy that I recommend. And we'll definitely every time I have something new in the future, if I have a different new strategy or something new to a new development that I've learned myself, we will definitely have pop up with a training webinar and let everyone know about it as well. So but until then, the Google group is definitely the place to post your questions.
Very good. And one last second comment. Is this accurate concerning AdWords and whether or not it improves organic rankings? I think it's because Google likes websites that get traffic from sources outside Google organic searches. I think that Google views AdWords as a completely different source than a regular Google search. So if your site or landing page is getting traffic from AdWords, Google views it that your site is getting traffic outside of Google searches, and they really like that, and they reward you by boosting your organic ranking. Tal0R, what do you think?
I think it's a great theory. I have no idea if it's what exactly is the truth or not.
Right.
For me, it could be, hey, you're spending money with. It could be as simple as you're spending money with Google and you're giving them money. Well, maybe there is like a sense of credibility there, right? So maybe Google's saying, well, this person's spending 10 grand a month with us. Obviously, they must be a real business doing real things. They're not just some black hat, fly-by-night guy who's trying to sell some affiliate product and rank organically so they can sell some junk,
Right.
or something like that. So, maybe there's that.
Don't know. In the early days, Google always swore up and down that they maintained a strict editorial barrier between their organic and their paid listings so that you couldn't, quote unquote, buy your way into better SEO. I don't know. I don't. They've, as long as I was ever familiar with Google, they swore that. So,
Yep.
yeah. So let's see, Michael's.
The answer on the certification exam is that PPC does not influence SEO. That's funny. So I guess on the Google certification exam, they probably asked that question. But it'd be interesting to see what really happens behind the scenes. Yeah, we'll never know. Well, I guess
Right.
it's all
And
speculation.
Michael also asks, from the recorded lawyer call, did that guy ever fire his SEO guys? Has he built his new office and stayed with you, Tal0R?
I stopped following up with that guy. I actually I could have easily continued to follow up with him, but he was kind of just all over the place and saying, yeah, we're going to start next week. I got the payment for you and all this kind of stuff. And quite frankly, I was offering him already my bottom level pricing, and I just didn't have it in me to keep following up and going after him. And he just seemed like he was starting to be a pain with every week coming back to me saying, yeah, I'll, next week kind of a thing. So, but I can tell you that if I want, I can tell you that 4 out of 5 people like that will sign on and send you the check and all that kind of stuff. And I definitely could have, if I would have kept really trying hard to land him or following up with him. But he was kind of all over the place and kind of a mess. So he wasn't my ideal guy. But I'm glad I'm really glad I recorded that call because, it was really. I think it's really valuable for people to see exactly. That's the same conversation I have with everyone, pretty much. So, yeah.
And everyone should know and develop a list over time of what their standards are for what kind of clients they will and will not keep and retain for a long time. So, just a good piece of advice. So, good. That's everything I got. Tal0R.
Yeah,
everyone, thank you so much. It was great to see everyone in Marina Del Rey, and we'll see you in the Google Plus community.